Hey folks, SMK Gaming here with part 1 of my new Warzone series called Warzone Bootcamp. I previously did an introductory video explaining what this series would be about. I stated in that what my planned topics would be, and that is linked above if you wish to check that out first. In it I state that this series will be nothing like you've ever seen or heard before, and I stand by that. Have a look at this still image here. What can you see? Call out everything, and I do mean everything, even if it may not seem that important. Firstly, you have a player on the roof here. If you look at the minimap also, you can see that the storm is closing in, so players could be running from it. Therefore, these alleyways are potential places players could be making their way through below me. These doors are also open. These are areas and rooms players could be in, and they may be ready to come out or peek out of. These rooftops appear empty, but I do not have a full view of them. There could potentially be players on them also. These vehicles, barrels and other in-game assets could have players hiding around them. There are many other things I could point out in this image. But how long has it taken me to do this by calling it out? 25, 30 seconds? Subconsciously, my brain is doing this in fractions of a second, and it is constantly doing this as I play Warzone. My brain is continually assessing the situation around me, it is scanning the area in front of me, taking in all the various stimuli and pieces of information so that I can best choose a suitable action. We all do this, some just do it better than others. It is this visual perception process that can make you a great player, not your gun skills. It is your brain's ability to make sense of what your eyes see. How does this process work? Well, as we scan the area around us, each piece of information is taken in by the eyes and processed, filtered, interpreted, compared with existing patterns, and then reassembled to make a complete picture. Other parts of the brain associate these elements with experiences and emotions. This part is key to remembering a particular action you took, and we will talk more on this later. However, back to the still image. What was the first thing you seen in this image? The player on the rooftop, of course. For many, that is where their assessment of the area would have ended. As soon as they spotted this player, they now solely focus on this player, as they see them as the most imminent threat. But are they? Do they see me yet? No, so the threat level from them isn't that high. Yet many would target this player straight away. Do you play like this? The most common response from players I hear is that they cannot help it. They just get tunnel vision and nothing else matters around them. They see a player and they go for that player. They say they do it without thinking? Wrong. They do it by thinking. Their thought process is all wrong. It is the brain making the decision to target this player. Why? Because it is their brain's automatic response for this type of scenario. Let me give you a real world example to help with your understanding of this. You are in your living room at home. You want to dim your lights or turn them off completely. Do you walk around the room pressing every button or turning every knob until you come across the correct switch each and every time? No, you don't. You know exactly where the correct one is and what to do with it because you have made a conscious effort to retain that information from past scenarios that go back to your childhood. This retention of information from short-term memory to long-term memory can be done in a number of ways. Through repetition, for example, constantly doing it over and over again. Studying for an exam and reading text over and over again, for example. However, an even more effective way is giving it meaning and associating it with previously acquired knowledge. For example, I need to remember the following number: 04281960. To remember it, I associate the 04 number as the month of my girlfriend's birthday. 28 is the date of mine, and 1960 is the year my father was born. You can now recall this number much easier, can't you? It actually doesn't require much effort to recall it, does it? We can learn and recall things in a similar manner when gaming. When you do something correctly, you should give it some sort of meaning and importance. This helps you learn the correct way and improve as a player. So back to the gaming scenario where a player gets tunnel vision and attacks a player regardless of their situation. They do this because that is what they have always done, over and over again. Remember repetition? This is one way we learn, but it doesn't mean you learned correctly. Practice doesn't make perfect. Practice makes permanent. They have never made a conscious effort to remember what they did was wrong. They don't assign any importance to this type of memory, and so it is therefore lost and forgotten. As a result, in their visual perception process and in their long-term memory stores, there is now a response mechanism that looks something like this. They spot a player, so subconsciously the brain begins to very quickly figure out what game they are playing by looking through a library of sorts. It determines it is Warzone. So what do we do when we see a player in Warzone? Firstly, determine if it is a friendly or foe. The brain opens up the Warzone book and begins to very quickly flick through the pages. It quickly realises this is a solo game, therefore everyone in the game is an enemy. So what do we do when we see an enemy? Once again it goes back to the book, but now it is narrowed down to the fact that it is an enemy player and goes straight to the past experiences chapter of the Warzone book and looks up what they usually do when they see an enemy. The answer? Attack, attack, attack. Therefore this is what the player does each and every time. The better player's process will look vastly different, however. Let's jump into the part where the brain knows it is an enemy player and it is looking at what to do next. The brain will once again go to past experiences, but this time there is not responses. There is far more chapters and subsections within these chapters of the past experience section. The brain must first narrow down the type of situation. Is the player right in front? Has the player seen you? Is the player on the ground? Is the player on cover? Is the player on the roof? Okay, the player is on the roof. The brain will open up that chapter, and again there are more subsections. Is the player in front? Are you behind him? The brain opens up, you are behind him. More subsections. Are they above your level? Are you above them? Are you in the same level? Etc, etc. It goes on and on like this. This is because in the past the best players have reacted differently depending on the situation at hand, and as such can recall upon many different ways to respond to a situation in front of them. If they make a mistake, they make a conscious effort to remember that mistake and assign importance to it because they want to improve, and so the next time they come across a similar situation, they remember not to do the same mistake they previously did. That is how we get better at video games, or at least how the best players do it. For those that do the same thing each and every time, you need to reprogram your brain so that what you're doing wrong is no longer your automated response. This can be achieved. Visual perception can be trained, and it starts with you making a conscious effort to do things differently, and also make a conscious effort to remember what you did was wrong if things do not work out in whatever you did. Now, this will be difficult in the beginning. You have to constantly think about what you are doing in Warzone, and this can be a tiring process. But after a while, it does become much easier, and you do begin to start doing it without conscious thinking. Your subconscious is doing it all in the background for you. Another way in which you can improve is by slowing things down in the beginning. Take the time to scan the area in front of you. Also record and rewatch your gameplay of the things you did wrong as well as the things you did right. This is putting in extra effort. You want to improve, and as such, you're more likely to remember and recall from this experience of rewatching what you did correctly as well as incorrectly. Another way to improve, and I will finish off with this, is I want you to recall a Warzone moment. The first thing that comes into your head. This situation you remember is either a really happy, ecstatic memory or a bad one where you were quite angry. It will be a memory with some form of emotion tied to it, and that is why you can easily recall it. This is another way in which we can remember and recall things from video games. This is probably the strongest way to remember something, and how we can use past experiences full of emotion to learn for future ones. Unfortunately, we have little control over this type, as we can't just pretend, oh, that was a really happy or angry situation, I must remember that. It won't work like that. I just wanted to make you aware that memories with real emotion, strong emotional feelings tied to them, are the strongest when it comes to recalling past experiences. And again, if those memories are strong, then during situations that maybe you did well, you'll be able to recall that much easier and learn and do the same thing if it was good, or if it's bad, not to do that again. So that is the end of part 1, folks, the visual perception and memory recall video. I hope it wasn't difficult to understand and I laid it out clearly with my explanation and graphics on screen. If you have any questions about the video, leave me a comment below and I will answer as soon as I can. In the second part of the series, I will discuss focus and how you can optimize your focus when playing Warzone. I hope you enjoyed the video. Please drop a like if you did, and of course, hit that subscribe button and turn on the bell to stay updated with all my upcoming Warzone videos. Stay safe out there folks, and I will see you again in the next video.